Hello, I'm Sora Luxon, and this is Planetary Magick Mars, the Lesser Malefict, or more commonly, Mars the Warrior. If Mars had a modern motto, it would be something like off the chain. All that wonderful, wild, passionate action, but so powerfully active or possibly violently pushing or moving that it's one of those things that tends to be more enjoyable to watch from a safe distance than to be directly engaged with or involved in. Like when someone does a great crazy car stunt for the first time spontaneously without it's ever having been done before, and we go, wow, man, that was off the chain. That's how I usually get new initiates to comprehend the powerful rulership and often chaotic, semi cataclysmic, or possibly violently catastrophic traits of Mars. Often, it's far more enjoyable to watch that sort of a thing from a nearby sidewalk than to be in the passenger seat when that trick is being done for the first time, especially when the culmination is 50-50 whether or not the vehicle is going to slam into the side of a building. But then again, without the driver of the vehicle jumping full throttle into the inertia and action of that first time attempt, the amazing stunt would never happen. No one would know it could be done, and there'd be no payoff from the outcome. Right? When it does go right and the crowd cheers and the stunt driver is then bathed in valor and glory. We learn new information. We know that it can happen now, and we take home that grand prize. So, see, like everything else, is 50-50. Mars is neither wholly good nor wholly bad. It's a balance of positive and negative that is wholly necessary. Mars loves a brawl. It likes to fight. On the Kabbalic tree of life, it resides on the pillar of severity as Gabora, and its planetary symbol is the symbol that also defines male, or the masculine, a circle with a spear pointing up. It's the symbol of masculinity because Mars is masculinity within magic. It's masculine energy. And remember, we're not talking about gender here. We're talking about the energetic character of masculine magics. And in magic, the energy of the masculine is the impulse, the provocateur, and also often the protector, right? The protector of the feminine magical energies. The masculine energy is what often drives away threats. It's what dead eyes the opposition and says move or be made dust. And very often, that's so that the feminine is shielded and can absorb the necessary functions or information to then birth the intended outcome. That's what we're talking about when we talk about Mars's embodiment of masculinity. We're talking about active, penetrating force, sometimes violently warlike, sometimes passionately protective, masculine magical forces. Mars motivates and provokes. It impassions, inflames. This can be incredibly useful when it gets us to rise and shine. It gets us out of bed in the morning, right? It gives us that motivation to get on with our day. What spurs us into action with lust and vigor. Or also, in its darker aspect, someone who's become passionately angry perhaps about an idea or an opinion. Like when someone is passionately arguing their side of something, venting, perhaps yelling, trying to dominate by force or enforce that others agree with them, that power over mentality of domination, that's also Mars. Mars, passion and lust isn't always that, though. It isn't always this bad thing. Lust gets talked down a lot as a problematic quality culturally, especially in modern Christian society, but it's lust that's very often needed to inspire us to act where otherwise we might not, to try almost despite ourselves to do. Lust is the miracle, not the bane of humanity as a living organism. Any scientist could tell you the same. Without lust, the species doesn't necessarily have the motivation to procreate, which is kind of important, especially when huge elements of the species, are treated to cultural conditioning historically that have sought to depress, regress, or confine it. Lust breaks those bonds in a very healthy way and initiates our ability to thrive. It's Romeo and Juliet. It's even when everything is controlled and contrived and disallowed and will lead to disintegration or dissolution anyway. Lust doesn't care. Lust is out there violently saying, I want that, and then seeks to make it happen. It can't be told what to do because it is the teller. It is Mars. It is the commanding, fiery, passionate warrior leading the charge to the goal. When we say someone's hot, that's Mars, right? We're talking about it being fiery, attractive, hot, lustful. Or, hey, that's hot, right? Same thing. This is Mars' passion, lust. Not always a bad thing. Mars month is March, the month of Aries. Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. And if you think about it, when is March? It's in the spring. New life, new growth, movement, activity. Mars is absolutely the planet of war. But everything has polarity, remember? This means that although Mars usually gets a bad rap for being this very violent planet of war, because that's one of its darker severity traits, it also has a good side to it for those who use planetary magic, and we ought to remain mindful of it. Mars is a force that creates movement, action. It isn't all bad. None of the planets are. In sacred geometry, the first plane of manifestation is the form of the 3 points, the sacrosanct triangle. And the physical plane of manifestation is the form of the 4 points, the perfect square. You see this rule made manifest in the use of the triangle of the art during summoning works in ceremonial magic, where the 3 points create the barrier, with the 4th summoned spirit or energy becoming the point within that triangle made manifest on this plane. But without the ability to move free of the boundaries it has been summoned into, or without any ability to act freely of them. Now, Mars' number is 5. So in terms of sacred geometry, the 5th point is what allows for movement, action. If you were to add this 5th point into a summoning, then the spirit invoked would not be bound within the qualified space. 3 points, a space made manifest. 4 points, a square of no movement. 5 points equals that movement. Within every pentagram, star of the spirit, you can see the sacred sigil of its ever-flowing energetic center of activity, of movement, the pentagon, the 5-pointed shape of unbound, unrestricted action that often goes unseen. If you connect the exterior points of the sacred star, you will find it rests within another hidden, invisible, but ever-present pentagon. So movement within and movement without, generated by the 5th holy action. When we do an LBRP, for instance, or any pentagram ceremony for that matter, we are creating that movement, that action. In the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram specifically, we call upon the elements and are then banishing, moving the energies away. We're using the 5th point, that 5-pointed star, to create the action of pushing away. Action, movement, the number 5, Mars number. When you use a pentagram ceremony to invoke, you're pulling it towards you, to you. Again, that's action, movement, the 5th point, the pentagram. The number of action and movement, Mars's number. Mars tarot card is the Tower, the card of destruction. Move or be made dust. Move or be destroyed. That is Mars, right? If you don't get out of my way, this spear is going into you. Violent action is upon you. Again, it's good to bear in mind that violent action and destruction isn't always bad. More often than not, it's incredibly necessary and useful to us, however much we might egoically seek to shield ourselves from it. When we talk about martial law, we are directly referencing Mars' correspondence to military matters. The warrior of the war, that's Mars. You can also hear it in martial arts. The warrior planet's rulership of a specific sphere of arts of techniques employed by warriors engaged in physical plane movement, active combat styles. The fiery planet's color is, you guessed it, the color of rage, aggression, blood, lust, war, pain, violence, accidents, destruction, blazing, furious red. Red is Mars' color. We're conditioned to this planet's color socially and culturally. Our brains are actually wired to respond to it on a deep level of the mammalian psyche as well. A red stop sign is going to jump out and grab your attention and yell stop or else. If you do not pay attention to this sign, if you do not pay attention to what you are being told to do, destruction will be your reward. That's red. That's Mars. Mars' aggressive warning. In the same way, but used to a different end, red lipstick or the bright red paint on a Ferrari screams out to potential physical plane breeding partners. Mammalian psyche traits. It screams out a passionate stop. Pay attention to me, or else. As does the rising of blood to the cheeks, the all-attention-grabbing blush of the species, of humanity, where Venus is the feminine green of love and life, that accepting and generating planet. Mars is the red of lust, the driving of force, and necessarily devastating penetration. All this red, it's all mostly hardwired, all active, passionately, violently, even attention grabbing, right? That's what red does. That's why it's used in so many logos. Red is aggressive. It's provoking and provocative, whether to violence or passion. A flash of red on a screen sends our synapses spinning into activity, into response. And our subconscious and primal mind are highly aware of that, even if we aren't always consciously aware of it. For every accident Mars creates is the potential for an action someone might not have otherwise taken without that accident happening. That same bloody red also speaks to blood itself. Its constant movement and circulation through our bodies. See, again, movement, action. It's the red of Thor, of Agni, the Hindu god of fire, of Vulcan god of making of fire, of Ares, of Juno with her mantle and spear. Again, that spear. The warrior red of just about every fighting hero, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Captain America, right? It's the color of the Marvel comic books, Marvel's logo, right? Red. The red in the American flag. You get the idea. Mars anger can be the inspiration that creates action, right? Anger can be what eggs us on, what gets us moving, what forces us to take a necessary step that we might not have otherwise taken. Pain itself, that pain of Mars, that itself is a wonderful motivator. Pain is a great motivator, and we have Mars to thank for it. If we didn't feel physical pain in these salt crystal and water vessels we walk around in, they wouldn't last very long. I bet you have never in your entire life moved as fast as you did or reacted as quickly and violently as you did when you had your fingers accidentally closed in a door for the first time, or something heavy land on your foot, right? Pain inspires reaction and quick movement to, say, free your hand of a door jamb or free your foot as promptly as possible, which is very, very necessary if you don't want your toes entirely crushed or permanent damage from your fingertips being cut off or blood flow loss in your fingertips. Pain inspires us to move and move quickly. Emotional pain is also one of the best teachers we've ever been presented with within the mortal coil. What haven't you learned hard, well, and very, very quickly from the worst types of pain? Exactly. It's very useful, and you can thank Mars for that. No, I mean really, right? Thank Mars. Pain gets a bad rap the same way Mars does for being violent and being the planet of pain. But people are always trying to deny pain. How does that work out for them, right? How many people try to deny pain, ignore it, avoid it, get rid of it, dislike it? They never embrace it. They never appreciate it for all the good it does. And that never ends up serving them well. It's only when we accept, allow, and comprehend our pain that we realize it in a healthy way. And then we learn from it, right? And there's a reason for that. It's here to help us. Its lessons, Mars' lessons, are every bit as invaluable as every other Sephiroth sphere. Thank you, pain, for teaching me this lesson. Thank you for everything you teach me. Thank you, Mars, right? That is a much more consciously healthy way of approaching pain. Again, you can see how there are these positive and negative aspects. We don't want to get hurt, but it can often inspire us to great acts, right? So within the rulership of the lesser malefic, Mars are good and bad things. For all of its destructive, violent traits, there are also passionate, motivational, or dominating attributes that make it very useful and necessary. Too much submission, for instance, is weakness, right? And you're going to become a doormat. You're going to let everybody walk all over you. An inability to speak up or step out or step up, call on a little Mars to inspire the lust for life and your own internal powers, right? The motivation to do, or the ability to take command and embody powerful control over circumstance. And just as Mars is the military supernal, so too is it the godhead of specific ideal qualities and values such as honor and courage. So it's not all bad. For every war, there is a courageous warrior. For every bloody battle, a possible opportunity for valor or circumstance to display and learn honorable behaviors. And active destruction itself, it sounds so scary, right? It sounds so bad. And in many ways, to us, it can be. But as I mentioned, it's also incredibly necessary. Destruction is necessary. There can never be anything new without the old being destroyed, right? Without death, there is no renewal. Without Mars' destructive qualities, there wouldn't be enough room for everything. Cyclical nature is necessary for nature itself to exist. A new acorn can never take seed and grow if aeons of previous dead oak trees don't eventually die and erode and return back to base form in order to provide the space and sunlight and nutrients, the soil itself that's making up for that new acorn to grow in. And who wants to be surrounded by millions of dead trees ad nauseum throughout eternity on the physical plane, rather than be present within the ever-ebbing and flowing variant courses of those same trees' lifespans, where you get to have the bright new seedlings and the fatherly old oaks and the dead and decaying, beautifully moss-covered, partially eroded, fallen trunks. All of these things together in a unity in a forest, right? Destruction provides for that to be possible. Without it, it would just be millions of dead trees and nothing else. Not to mention that Mars is movement, right? I keep saying Mars is action, movement. It is animus. It is the spear that says move or be penetrated, get moving or be stabbed, right? All life is animate. Mars is that animus, that movement. Mars is motivation and driving force to do. All growth is movement. So all animate life is entirely reliant on the active rulership of Mars's powers. In magic, we quickly realize that passion and purpose are two of the greatest goals worth seeking to fulfill a full and useful life of great worth, and so also great magical power. Mars is passion and purpose. So although you should always remain aware of its volatile and furiously dangerous aspects, every magician worth his or her salt should also embrace and call on Mars when necessary to inspire us when we need to find that passion or that purpose that we're seeking. Gaining mastery over the power of Mars, its rulership energies, allows for every planetary occultist to channel the motivation to action that gives us the fullest potentials and life possible. Seeking inspiration, feeling dull, Mars magic. Feeling too slow, too inactive, too tired, slothful, Mars magic. Seeking to rekindle passion or to win a war, Mars magic. Until next time.